Hey, JK here. I want to thank you for sharing part of your day with me. Ladies and gentlemen, we're done with week 12, and I don't think it could have gotten any worse for us. We absolutely bombed. We were going against Jahmyr Gibbs in 2 of our 4 leagues, so you can imagine how they went. The only reprieve we have is we know that we will be in the playoffs in at least 1 league, still fighting in 2, and we're completely kaput and out in another, but it's all good. At least the Redskins didn't lose this week. It was almost impossible to since they weren't playing, but in any case, we'll go ahead and start with the deranged Easter Bunny. We were going against the number 1 team in the league, and it absolutely showed. Unfortunately, we lost 203 to 270. It was still a decent game. It was relatively close, but opponent did have Jahmyr Gibbs, so that was 73 points. So I'm not saying if he wouldn't have had him, we would have won, because he will, still at least would have put up, 20 points. So there was still opportunity for me to have lost, and very little opportunity for me to win. But it's all good. It's all good. We're still in 4th, and we're solidified a spot in the playoffs, so not at all bad. Especially since there are no bye weeks in the playoffs, we will immediately jump into matchups as soon as the playoffs begin. The guys that did do well for me, man, they really put on a show. Unfortunately, we pissed it away. Drake May put up 47 for us. George Pickens and Amon-Ra St. Brown both put up 35. And Derrick Henry, again, having a big week, put up 24 for him. The lowest score for our team was Aaron Jones Sr., who put up 8 points. We did sit Emmanuel Wilson, who put up 28, so it would have looked a little bit more respectable. 223 to 270. Still would have been a loss, but it is what it is, man. As we move on over to As and Drop Server 2 for the week, we added Emmanuel Wilson and added Brian Burns. We dropped Kamani Vidal and dropped Byron Jones. So did switch out running backs and did switch out defensive ends. Neither one of them did well for me. At least like the defensive ends. Neither one of them did anything, so didn't lose out on anything there. This loss brought us to 8-4, still in 4th place, still guaranteed a playoff spot. So while I would like to win, if we get the losses out of the way now and win throughout the playoffs, then I'll be good. Now we're going to jump on over to the other Yahoo League, the Party Time Party Boys. This week we were playing against the guy who was right below us in our division. So we were number 2 overall in the league, but clearly nowhere near the top with our record at being 5-6. So the guy that we were playing was number 2 in our division. Now they're number 1 in our division and number 2 overall, as we fell to 5-7 with a score of 134 to 161. While that sounds like a pretty decent separation, we absolutely could have and should have won, but oh well, I digress. We did have some guys who performed well and had some people who just absolutely tanked for us, and they sold. Our top scorer was Emmanuel Wilson with 26, followed by Derrick Henry with 22, and then Michael Wilson, the Cardinals wide receiver, with 21. On the other side, we have it D. Montgomery only getting 6 points. And then we had Baker Mayfield, daggone it, and Kyren Williams. That was his lowest output of the season. I also believe that was Baker Mayfield's lowest output of the season. So those 2 guys combined got me 10 points. Now let me tell you how I could have and should have won. I sat Jared Goff, who got me 18. I sat Tez Johnson, who got me 12. Those 2 combined for 30, minus the 10 from Baker Mayfield and Kyren Williams. I substitute those guys, and boom, we win by 3? Yeah. So, oh well, that's unfortunate. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. As we move on over to the As and Drops, we added Michael and Emmanuel Wilson and dropped Dallas defense and Luke Musgrave. Unfortunately, this loss did bring our record to 5-7. We dropped from 2nd overall in the standings to 7th. We're still alive, but it's just going to be tough. The important thing is, if we win, we're in. We might need a little bit of help though, but hey, just win, baby, win, right? Heading on over to the ESPN leagues, we're going to start with the Vince McMahon Football Club, where we are still out of the playoffs. We were knocked out officially last week, so we're not going to get back in it. We did lose again this week, which I think you could have seen that come from a mile away, but it was a little closer than usual, and we, again, could have, should have won. We lost 89 to 124. Our high score, Bam Knight. I'll be honest, I didn't even remember starting him. We also had 4 guys tie with 12. Puka Nacua, Kyren Williams, Juwan Jennings, and Aaron Jones Sr. Now, as we move on to the other side, we had guys who dropped the ball big time. D. Montgomery, 6 points. Baker Mayfield, 5 points. Trey Tucker, 3 points. And the daggone Lions defense got me -3. As we talk about the guys that we sat, Jared Goff, you got us 22 points. That's an additional 17 we could have had. Parker Washington, you had 15. That's an additional 12 we could have had. Khalil Shakur, you scored 12. That would have been another 5. And then the Dallas defense, wow. It didn't look good starting off. They had you in the first half. They absolutely did. But you turned it up the second half, and you actually did score 11, which would have been another 14 points for us. So if you had 17 and 12 and 5 and 14, we would have scored more than the other team. Yeah, the other team also had 2 guys on bye, so he was not worried at all about us, and rightfully so. There were no adds and drops for this team, but I am still going to suggest we not have so many people because it's ridiculous. Also, there's no waiver wire period, so you can literally add and drop anyone anytime you want. Instead of there being that 2-day submission period where someone else can claim them, yeah, that's not here. I don't like that. Not because it's, oh, every man for himself, you have to be on it, but because, man, that it kind of takes away from the waivers. That takes away from that fun, the anticipation, like, first on the waiver wire, am I going to be able to get him? You know, do I need to put in 4 or 5 different people because we might not get a number 1 or number 2 guy? Kind of takes away from that fun and anticipation. So, yeah. A few suggestions for this league that's not even my league next year. Last team we're talking about is the Jerome Horse Purple Dragons. Now, while we're still alive in the playoffs, we will have to go against the number 1 team in the league eventually. And, you know, with 2 weeks left, we have to win out. I'm not holding my breath for that. But, hey, who knows? Crazier things have happened. However, unfortunately, this week we lost 92 to 152. Holy crap, JK, how'd you lose so much? He had Jahmyr Gibbs. He scored 43 points in this league. So again, not saying if he didn't have Jahmyr Gibbs, he wouldn't have won because he still would have had more points than me, but it wouldn't have looked so bad. Gosh. We had some guys who put up some decent points, and we had some guys that very clearly dropped the ball. Jared Goff, you put up 21. Derrick Henry put up 20, and CMC put up 19. On the other side, T. Higgins, you got hurt, and you only put 3 points up for me. That's very unfortunate. I hope you do get well soon. However, then Alec Pierce and David Montgomery only got me 2 points apiece. So, oof, that is not good. Craziest part is here at 4-8, we are again still in the playoff hunt. We would obviously be the lowest seed, and there's a lot of uphill that we need to do in 2 weeks. It's very unlikely that it happens, but again, crazier things have happened. There were no ads and drops for this league, so we will go ahead and jump into the people I think you should add. Number 1 guy I think you should add, Shamir Dyke, or Shamir Deke, or however you say his name. He has stepped back into a decent role with the Titans, and now Elik Alamanor is not the guy anymore. And then they got rid of one of their other receivers, and Chig Ozukuwagnu, or whatever his name is, isn't catching passes. So, yeah, you got a guy in Shamir Deke, or Dyke, or anyway, however you say his name. Pick him up. He's the main focal point of that offense. Maybe also Tyjae Spears or Tyree Spears. I think it's Tyjae Spears. Go ahead and pick him up. He is also one of the factors in that offense, but it's bleak. Ooh, it's bleak. I would not trust them too much. Next guy I want to talk about is another pass catcher, and he is Greg Dortch for the Cardinals. Now, because Mr. Marvin Harrison Jr. has been out, a lot of attention has gone to Greg Dortch. Also, you have seen other individuals like Michael Wilson step up. That's great. However, Dortch is the person getting the touchdowns. In the last 2 games, Dortch has put up 12 receptions, 119 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Now, if you're looking for PPR leagues, Michael Wilson has had 2 straight weeks of 10-plus receptions and 15-plus targets. So he's putting in the work to get him down the field. Dortch is getting the pay dirt. So depending on how your league is, you might want to look at both. You might want to look at one. Last guy we're talking about is a pass catcher, but he's coming out of the backfield. Kenneth Gainwell. Coming into the year, the running back position in Pittsburgh was probably going to be Jaylen Warren, or it was going to be Caleb Johnson, who was drafted out of Iowa. Well, Kenneth Gainwell has emerged, and in the last 2 weeks, he has absolutely gone off. 19 carries for 116 yards and 13 receptions for 111 yards. Those are some big numbers, especially if you're in a PPR league, even have PPR. Getting a lot of work out of the backfield. So definitely look at him, regardless of whether you're in PPR or not. He will probably continue to lead the charge, especially if you have DK Metcalf, who is nursing an ankle, which, I mean, he ran for a touchdown last week. So probably took one away from Kenneth Gainwell. So, you know, it is what it is. But still, if if DK Metcalf cannot go, you're going to have Gainwell coming out of the backfield. And obviously, Aaron Rodgers is like, hey, this guy can actually catch, unlike some of my other guys. That's going to do it for the recaps. We are less than 3 hours away from Turkey Day. So hopefully you are having a great time. Hopefully we get to all watch the football tomorrow after the parade and before stuffing our face, or maybe after stuffing our face. We're probably going to take a nap with all of the turkey we're going to be consuming, all the food in general. So I hope that you and your family have a great Turkey Day, and I hope that your playoff dreams do not fade over these last 2 weeks and only shine brighter and brighter. This is JK. I want to thank you for sharing part of your day with me.